Hey, what's up guys, OSJ here with another Worst Arcade Ports video, and today it's the turn of the Amiga. For a system that was renowned for having super smooth scrolling and great graphics, some of the games you are about to see are inexcusable. First though, I just want to give a big shout out to one of my Patreons, Feeny Von Karma, who joined last month. She dropped me a lovely message last week saying that she watches my content with her mother every weekend, which means a lot to me. But the real reason for the shout out is to apologise for missing her name off the Patreon end credits in my last video. Anyway, apologies over, let's take a look at the 20 worst Amiga arcade ports from bad to worse. Kicking us off in 20th place we have Outrun. Everyone knows what a great game Outrun was, actually still is. In 1987 we were given the timeless classic, and still today I could fire it up and play it all the way through without getting bored. The Amiga port however is a complete disaster. US Gold punted for the old trick of making it look nice and everything else doesn't matter. The one thing that really winds me up about this game as well is when you turn a corner to the right you actually change driving positions with your girlfriend. The fact that this is in lowest place on this list lets you know some of the utter tripe we are about to see. 19th place is taken by Rollin' Thunder. This is another game that was absolutely everywhere back in the day. It's a super cool platform shooter that had one of the best and most recognised soundtracks in the arcades. Now I'm just going to say this as you're going to hear it a lot in this video. This is US Gold published, but it was developed by Teatex, which have become the scourge of Amiga games. They chose to make games look as close to the arcade as they could to sell copies based on the screenshots, and were often lazy Atari ST ports. For a system that was known for knocking out great platform games, this game could have and should have been much better. Dynasty Wars is in 18th position. This was a truly epic arcade game from Capcom with gorgeous graphics and brilliant two-player gameplay. The Amiga version was released by, yes you've guessed it, US Gold, and as with a lot of US Gold games, this focus seems to be on making it look good with no thought for gameplay, resulting in one of the most boring beat-em-ups ever made. In 17th place we have Thunder Jaws. This is one of the lesser known games on the list, but after playing it some memories came flooding back to me. It's an underwater shooter, rolling thunder type game that wasn't bad to be honest. The conversion to the Amiga was by Domark, yes another name we keep hearing in bad games lists. Again this doesn't look bad and sounds okay, but the gameplay is terrible and the hit detection is flaky to say the least, which really lets this game down. 16th place is taken by Tiger Road. This is a proper old school platform game from around the time I was always at the arcades. We used to plough our money into this but never completed it as it's really hard. I remember laughing at the way the character goes up and down the stairs at lightning speed. The Amiga version by Go for me failed to deliver on all aspects of the game. The graphics aren't what they could have been. The sprites seem too small compared to the arcade. The sound is nothing to write home about and the gameplay is slow and boring, which again is a shame as this could have been a near perfect arcade port in the right hands. Alien Storm is in 15th position. This was a class 3 player game that me and my mates used to play a lot. The game had some of the strangest enemies we had ever seen and was just the right difficulty to be worth putting your money in for. The Amiga version has grainy looking graphics that aren't really bad, but the gameplay and sound are terrible. In fact, I go as far as one of the most annoying games I've played as far as controls go. Compared to the Mega Drive version, this is naff. In 14th place we have Soldier of Light. Now Soldier of Light was also known as Solar Warrior, or how I know it, Exanes as Selena. The arcade game is my favourite platform shooter ever and I still regularly play it, and I was happy that was included in Antstream. The Amiga version is just diabolical. The sprite size to the play area is just all wrong. The gameplay is infuriatingly bad. I never thought I would not like this game, especially as we had Turrican 2 on the Amiga and we all know how good that is, but this, well there's really no excuse for how bad this is. 13th place is taken by 1943, The Battle of Midway. This is a follow-up to the awesome 1942 and was a big hit in the arcades. It's a shooter, so you know that it's going to be one of my favourites, and I spent hours on this in the arcade. The Amiga version however is pure crap. The fact of the matter is the Amiga was known for some of the best top-down shooters like Battle Squadron and Swiv, and as the arcade wasn't the most demanding game, this should have been a walk in the park to convert, but we got this from Go. Really, they should be ashamed of themselves how bad this is. SideArms is in 12th position. This was a super popular side-scrolling shoot 'em up with a cool robot ship with even cooler upgrades. It's also one of the first shooters I played with reverse button, which made it pretty special for us kids. The Amiga version fails in every way possible. The movement is jerky and slow. The graphics aren't what you would expect from the Amiga. In fact, they are sub 8-bit standard. And the music, I mean, what the hell. When you think that Project X etc. were released on this system, there's no excuse for how bad this is. And one more thing, the reverse action is pitiful, meaning that you can't move backwards without turning round, which is the last nail in this game's coffin. In 11th place we have AfterBurner. I said it in the last video how well known this game was and how much it is still loved today. I also said what a bad job Activision did with the C64 version, and here we are again with another pile of crap from them. I think that all the excuses that they could have had for a bad C64 port can't be used on a system as capable as the Amiga, and for me this is just as bad if not worse than the C64 version, as we expected more. 10th place is taken by Stun Runner. This was a super smooth 3D racing shooter on the arcade that was really advanced for its year of release. The game was fast and exciting, but what we got on the Amiga was this. Now I'm no expert on coding, but surely this is a piss take. It's slow, sounds crap, and the graphics are like a kid's done them. And guess who this is from? Dormark. We really are starting to see a pattern here with these companies that obviously didn't care about the utter rubbish they pushed out to us. Real GhostBusters is in 9th position. To be honest, this is not one of my favourite arcade games, as I always thought it looked a bit crap, and if I was going to play something like this I'd have put my money in Alien Syndrome. Surely then, given the basicness of the game, this should be a good port of the Amiga, right? Well, no. It's a really bad port of a mediocre game. The character animation is laughable, and the game is just one long bore fest. I never thought I'd get sick of the Ghostbusters music, but that loop in this game is so annoying. In 8th place we have Renegade. This was the first beat 'em up that I played in the arcade that made me think wow. Up until this time, beat 'em ups were in the style of Kung Fu Master etc, but this one was much more three-dimensional. It's also from Technos, and I would say this game is the foundations for Double Dragon, that was released later the same year. The Amiga version though, whilst not being far off on the graphics, is miles away on everything else, and was done much better on the 8-bits. Vigilante is in 7th position. This is one of my favourite arcade games ever. I love Kung Fu Master, so when this game came along I thought it was class, as it's in the same style. It was one of the first playthroughs I did on my old channel, and I still regularly play it on the arcade. Anyway, surely US Gold couldn't mess this up. After all, they never used tier text for this, but yes, they did mess it up, and mess it up bad, and we got a virtually unplayable version of the arcade classic. Out of all the games on the list, this is the one that made me mad so much, as I was so excited to play it. 6th place is taken by Pit Fighter. Pit Fighter is one of those games that wowed in the arcades with its looks, but when it all came down to it, it was a one-trick pony and everything else was a bit rubbish. That didn't stop it being one of the most popular games in the arcade, so obviously it needed porting to the home systems. And who better to do a crap port of a crap arcade game? Yeah, Dormark. And they did exactly that. They took bad and made it even worse, all while retaining the arcade looks to fool people from the screenshots. ESWAT Cyber Police is in 5th position. As we saw in the C64 video, this was a great platform shooter on the arcade. The C64 didn't get it right, but surely the Amiga would prevail where its little brother had failed. Well, no. In fact, I would say this is even worse than the C64 version, because we expected so much more. What we actually got was a washed out, slow jerky mess that is actually one of my least favourite Amiga games ever. In 4th place we have Street Fighter. Again, this is another game that we saw previously, and as I said in that video, wasn't one of my favourite arcade games, but the Amiga version takes badness to a whole new level. Graphically it's not that bad, but that's where it all ends, as this is one of the slowest unresponsible games on the Amiga, and it's actually a contender for the worst Amiga game ever. And where is the sound effects? This is just a pure bore fest of a game. 3rd place is taken by Super C. This was known in the arcades as Super Contra and is a follow-up to the massive hit Contra. I honestly can't remember this game in the arcades, but after playing it, it's okay. Nothing too special and definitely not as good as the original, but as we never got Contra on the Amiga, or Gryzor as we knew it in the UK, I was keen to fire it up, but was met with a truly terrible game. Looks wise it's not bad, but gameplay and sound wise it's a nightmare. Fighting Soccer is in 2nd position. This is a top-down football game that, as far as I'm aware, there's no actual fighting in it. The arcade, I believe, was a cocktail cabinet with players at either side. As the Amiga handled similar games to this like Speedball 2 etc, you would expect this to be virtually arcade perfect, because let's be honest, the arcade wasn't that special, but apart from the looks, it's just lacking in gameplay, making it a game that would have angered many young kids who had spent their money on this. And now, in 1st place, we have Victory Road. This is Atari Warriors 2, and after the first game, SNK decided that killing humans wasn't enough and went all intergalactic. Even in the arcades, the results weren't good, and for me, it lost the feel of the first great game. It was released by Imagine for Amiga, and took the already flawed game to new heights on the crap scale. This is renowned for being bad on all systems, and the Amiga may just be the worst of a lot of them. Okay, that's it for this trip down Nightmare Street. I'm sure that most of you will have had the misfortune to have played at least one or two of these sorry excuses for games at some time and feel the pain. Let me know in the comments below what games you remember loving in the arcades that were a total letdown on the Amiga. Till next time, this is OSG signing out.